Thank you, Loretta. That was great. We have about half an hour now to have some discussion around culture is healing. In order for the technology to work and for people who are online to be able to hear us, it's useful to speak into the mic unless you have an extraordinarily loud voice. So we do have a portable mic available, and Tracy and I will try to spot you and get the mic to you if you have any questions or comments as well. Because we didn't do introductions, when you do stand up to ask a question or make a comment, just quickly introduce yourself, let us know your name and where you're from. And then we'll maybe actually get full introductions in that roundabout way. So are there any questions, comments, thoughts, reactions to the Culture is Healing presentation? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Good morning. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm very excited to see that this work has been undertaken. My name is Jeremy. I'm with MCFD's Aboriginal Services Branch. My question is this out in the wild now? How has it been responded to, if it is or has? And what kind of response has it received, if any? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Doug and team, do you guys want to speak to that?
Sure, I can. So with the work, it's just been shopped, I guess, out. We've had meetings with the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions around sharing this information with them. We're lining up meeting with health to talk to in plain sight in response to that. The essence of this report, which I think is really important, is it's not about so much the agency staff. It's really about, I think of when we talked about it earlier, with even BC ambulance coming in or people coming in to work with Indigenous children. And in this phrase of coming in and really looking at how do you show up in that work. And so at this point, the agencies have talked about it and the directors have endorsed it. Rita did a great job presenting. And now we're looking at, it'll tie into a bigger event in September around culture and really looking at how to ground the work. But what's really important about this is we're really trying to change the mindsets of those who are coming in to a community or working with agencies around Indigenous children, and to come in a way that you've prepared yourself, not in your practice so much. So it's not a clinical framework. It's really looking at, you have those clinical skills. How are you going to integrate those clinical skills into this environment, and how are you going to be there in a good way? So we're just starting to release it. We will be putting it up on the website for Indigenous Child and Family Service Directors. And then we're looking at trying to have a rollout with an implementation plan and looking at some support from government to help do that. There are many venues to do that. So we think we can do this in a cost-effective way so that we're able to get the information out. So that's where we're at.
Thanks, Doug. And for people who are joining us online, if you have questions or comments that you want to share, just use the hand raise feature and Lori will alert me to your presence. Go ahead. Is this slide on Teamwork?
No, the work on the
Yes, but it's going to be launched on Our Children Our Way on the
Yeah, so the document is not yet, has not yet been made public. It will be made available on the Indigenous Child and Family Services Director's website, which is called Our Children Our Way. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, good morning, everybody. My name is Lori Brooker. I'm with the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. Really pleased to be here today and share with you all and learn with you all. And thank you Thank you for everything. I had a question. I was reflecting on some of the comments earlier about engagement and processes and pieces like that, and was really wondering if somebody might be able to speak a little bit more about the process of how cultural healing came to be and how that was brought forward. Just reflecting on our own internal processes and how we go about doing our work and wanting to do it in a good way, and wondering if that's possible to hear a bit more about that.
Lori, do you want to speak to that?
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Lori Mason. I'm one of the policy analysts with the Secretariat team. So initially, in terms of the work, it was a continued conversation here at Directors Forum and the concern about the ongoing crisis of losing not only parents, but also children, the most precious ones, to directors and their communities and their families. So a lot of what is at the foundation of the framework came directly from directors in terms of acknowledging and really sharing and showing that directors are looking to continue to work side by side with practitioners and mental health and those that are in touch with children and youth that are in crisis. Ambulance services was a very big example. Psychiatric services, oftentimes directors themselves will show up in these spaces and be pleading with practitioners to give them a little bit more time to be able to develop a more fulsome plan so that children or youth don't end up back in the street and the worst case scenario aren't here the next day. So the framework was, the foundation of the framework definitely comes from directors, and then our steering committee is made up of practitioners, guardianship social workers, as well as mental wellness support counselors, and I'm trying to think of other programs throughout the 4 regions of our province. And our steering committee met monthly and really drew upon what Loretta had highlighted, the really strong knowledge and work that has been ongoing and concurrently, and as well as the work of our partners at the First Nations Health Authority and Mental Health and Addictions, and just really acknowledging that we want to do this in partnership and to be able to share the insight of how we are showing up and what is in our minds when asking for that support.
Okay, we have Mary online who's going to share some comments.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand the genesis of this project. Thank you for the for this wonderful work and the presentation, and thank you, Lori. I guess the way that this was the way that we developed this is the conversations that we had ongoing, and then I think really the frustration of our voice not being heard. We know, and especially in those remote places in the community, the opioid crisis that is decimating our young people. We see it every day here in Prince George with young people from all over BC coming to Prince George, and the services that we provide at Skyzik. So what happened, I think, for me anyways, and I definitely remember the conversation, is that there was a presentation by MCFD around a response to the opioid crisis, which we really didn't have any fulsome participation in that. And so what happened was that the idea was that navigators would be established so that they could navigate throughout the services, the youth services for somebody coming into a center, an agency, or the office. And then there would be, from what I gathered, navigators. So here we were asking for, we needed monies, we needed mental health workers, we're dealing with this crisis, we see it day to day, our relatives are dying. And then for us to find out, okay, there is this, whatever the strategy was, and then to say, well, it's a cost neutral process, but not only that, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you as delegated agencies to identify a worker to help us, like in this to be navigators or whatever they were called. So then that's where it started again, was that, there was no real input from us, no real practical changes, no new funding for to deal with the opioid crisis. And so we had to sort of take this into our own hands. Definitely, this is not a cost neutral process. I think we're going to have to figure out the funding that needs to go along with this. Otherwise, it's just words. And I do believe that we're at this place where we have to do something, and the crisis still hasn't abated at all. So I just wanted to let you know that it really came from a place where we're going to be proactive. We were tired of saying, well, we need a seat at the table, we need funding, and then, just the really, I think just the not hearing us and then saying, okay, well, we have this strategy, which you really weren't a part of. And then we also want you to provide us staff, and we're not giving you any funding to do that. So that's where some of the beginnings of this work was.